Hi, friends. Hey, y'all.
Hey, bestie.
Got a question for you. You already know where we're at. What do you get when you mix lawsuits that scream reverse discrimination, employers who think pregnancy is a personal inconvenience, and Supreme Court justices working night shift hours to quietly reshape your rights? You get another riveting episode of Overruled, of course, where the legal system gets the side eye it duly deserves. I'm your host, Jay, and today we're digging into the courtroom chaos that affects real people in real time with very real consequences. So grab your coffee, a notebook, and maybe say a quick prayer because this docket is stacked. Let's get into it. First up, we have issues on the docket. The part of the show where I break down the biggest legal headlines that deserve more than just a headline itself, because the courtroom might be the quietest place with the loudest consequences. Today, we're talking about who's claiming victimhood and who's losing workplace rights, and how the highest court in the land is handing out justice like it's on Uber Eats. Fast, late, and with zero details. So, without further ado, let's jump into our first story of the day. So, I want to take you over to Massachusetts, where there is currently a straight pride lawsuit. Yes, you heard me right. A straight pride lawsuit. Ha! Here we go. In 2019, the group Super Happy Fun America, SHFA, organized a straight pride parade in Boston, which attracted several hundred participants and thousands of counter protesters. Would you be surprised? The event was described by SHFA as a response to the identity politics of the left. Okay, so acknowledging people's existence that are often marginalized, that is something that we want to politicize and make about other communities that aren't actively oppressed, i.e., straight people. Okay, but we're going to continue here. The parade faced significant opposition, with critics labeling it as a mockery of LGBTQ rights and an event promoting hate under the guise of free speech. The organizers' actions and the city's response raise very important questions about the limits of the First Amendment, particularly concerning freedom of assembly and speech. The situation echoes the 1995 Supreme Court case, Hurley versus Irish American Gay, Lesbian, and Bisexual Group of Boston, where the court held that private parade organizers could not be compelled to include groups conveying messages they did not wish to endorse. So, let me get this straight. No pun intended there, but let me get this straight. You're mad that the city didn't roll out the red carpet for your straight pride event. You called yourselves oppressed because LGBTQ folks protested your bad faith cosplay of civil rights struggles and equality. Baby, that's not oppression, that's consequences. People not showing up for you and living for you because what you're doing is y'all wanted the civil rights aesthetic without the civil rights reality. Let's call it what it is. Clout chasing covered in legal filings and hurt heterosexual feelings. Claiming oppression while organizing a parade that many view as antagonistic to marginalized communities is a bold move, okay? It's a classic case of majority groups attempting to co-opt the language of discrimination to further their own agendas at the expense of those marginalized communities that need to speak up in the first place. What are your thoughts on this story? Sound off in the comments. Speaking of weaponized victimhood, Let's talk about how bodily autonomy in the workplace is being treated like a negotiable perk instead of a protected right in Texas. So, in our second story, a Texas judge rules firing pregnant employees is okay. Oh, no. I don't even like this. I don't like the way this is going off rip, and neither should you. A federal judge in Texas recently struck down regulations that required most U.S. employers to provide workers with time off and other accommodations for abortions. Now, this decision has sparked debates about the extent of employer obligations under federal law. So, to take you back for a little bit of context, the Pregnancy Discrimination Act of 1978 is supposed to protect against exactly this kind of termination. But the court's ruling effectively guts those protections by hiding behind a neutral policy language. AKA, it's completely skirting around that and trying to gloss over the new ruling with, flowery neutral language. The ruling itself centers on the interpretation of the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act, the PWFA, and its application to employers. While the judge's decision specifically addresses accommodations related to abortion, it raises broader concerns about the enforcement of workplace protections for pregnant employees. There's an obvious parallel here that you can connect to. The Pregnancy Discrimination Act of 1978 is supposed to protect against exactly this kind of termination. All right, y'all. All right, let's just knock it off. You can't claim to be pro-life and then fire someone for carrying said life. This ruling tells workers, especially women, that the second your body demands care, you become disposable. That's not just bad employment practice, it's dystopian logic. We're inching toward a reality where employers have more reproductive control than doctors, than their own employees even. Welcome to capitalism with a splash of patriarchy. Denying accommodations to pregnant workers not only undermines their rights as human beings, but also sets a concerning precedent. It's unequivocally essential to ensure that workplace policies do not disproportionately disadvantage those who are pregnant or have pregnancy-related needs. At the end of the day, you should care about your employees no matter what, right? Well, in Texas, no, wrong. But hey, why wait for bad law and terrible decision-making to play out in public courtrooms when you can just quietly rewrite the rules behind closed doors? Let's take a quick detour to the shadowy world of the U.S. Supreme Court and its use of the so-called shadow docket. For our last story, we're going to talk about the Supreme Court, which has increasingly utilized the shadow docket, which is a term referring to decisions made without full briefing or oral arguments, often through unsigned and unexplained orders. This practice has been employed in significant cases, including those affecting immigration policies and reproductive rights. Wow, those very big buzzwords that are impacting so many communities across this country. You mean to tell me that the Supreme Court is making decisions and determinations behind the scenes without listening to anything that constituents or citizens of the United States have to say about it? Do tell. The use of the shadow docket allows the court to make swift decisions, but it has drawn criticism for its lack of transparency and potential to bypass the standard judicial process. Such actions can have far-reaching consequences, as seen in cases where emergency rulings have led to the immediate implementation or suspension of policies affecting millions. Now, while expediency in the judiciary can be necessary, and there is a certain right that we all have to due process, which is a also speedy and fair trial. The lack of transparency in these particular decisions undermines public trust. The court's increasing reliance on the shadow docket raises questions about accountability and the proper balance between efficiency and due process. It's giving judicial ghosting. No hearings, no arguments, just surprise, your rights are gone. No. Y'all, these rulings drop faster than Beyonce concert tickets and with even less warning. And we know, as someone who has attended many a Beyonce concert, the minute those tickets are available, they're snatched up. They're gone. Abracadabra. Well, that's Lady Gaga. But anyway, moving right along. The highest court, the Supreme Court of the United States, in the land, shouldn't feel like some sort of Vegas magician act. What is that about, honestly, y'all? We deserve receipts and due diligence, not rulings by the vibe check of a select panel of individuals that are having conversations behind closed doors that affect millions and millions of people in this country. That's a problem. So, from the streets of Boston to the workplaces of Texas, and up to the highest court in the land, these stories underscore the profound impact of legal interpretations on our daily lives. As we move forward, we'll delve into cases that not only shape our present, but also set the course for our future. Stay tuned for Precedent Pending, where we explore the legal battles poised to redefine our rights and freedoms. We'll be right back. All right. Welcome back, everyone.
Hey,
Come on,
bestie.
grab a seat. Get cozy again. I'm glad you had a little break. Let's shift gears from the courtroom chaos to a different kind of battlefield. Your backyard. And by your, I mean Black communities in Louisiana, where the air is thick with more than humidity. Ooh, and baby, I know. It's soaked in chemicals, corporate greed, and decades of zoning decisions that scream racism in a totally different dialect. Welcome to Cancer Alley, where living near a plant doesn't mean you're employed. It means you're endangered. This isn't just environmental injustice. It's a slow, suffocating legacy that people have been forced to breathe in for generations. Let's talk about Cancer Alley and a legacy of environmental injustice in my home state, Louisiana. So, let's talk about the heart of Cancer Alley. Stretching along an 85-mile corridor between Baton Rouge and New Orleans lies a region ominously dubbed Cancer Alley. This area, home to over 200 petrochemical plants and refineries, has long been under scrutiny for its alarming cancer rates and environmental degradation. Predominantly inhabited by Black communities, residents have raised concerns for decades about the disproportionate placement of hazardous chemicals and industries in their neighborhoods. So let's talk about how this even came about in the first place. Let's talk about the history. The land in Cancer Alley has been abused for centuries. First, by plantation owners, now by polluting industries. Many of these chemical plants sit on the grounds of former slave plantations. This isn't coincidence, y'all. This is merely a continuation with a fresh face. Environmental racism isn't a new trend. It's an evolved form of oppression cloaked in zoning maps and industrial permits, more often than not affecting minority communities, predominantly Black and brown communities. So, are we surprised? I'm gonna let you think on that. In 2023, 3 community organizations, Inclusive Louisiana, Mount Triumph Baptist Church, and Rise St. James, filed a landmark lawsuit against the St. James Parish Council. The claim? That the council's land use decisions systematically targeted majority Black neighborhoods for industrial zoning. The numbers, they don't lie, so listen up. Of 24 petrochemical plants in the parish, 20 are in the 4th and 5th districts, areas that are overwhelmingly, obviously, Black. The suit argues this violates the 13th and 14th Amendments for all of these residents living in this area. Now, they have a reason, the citizens do, to be upset, because being around these chemicals, they're gonna cause some health issues. Residents aren't just dealing with the smell of sulfur in the morning, something we've all dealt with and smelled before. We're talking about cancer clusters, asthma, chronic illnesses affecting families, children, newborns. The EPA itself has flagged these regions as having some of the highest risk for cancer from industrial pollution in the country. Y'all, this isn't just a quality of life situation and issue. This is quite literally a matter of life and death for the people who live in Cancer Alley. Barbara Washington of Inclusive Louisiana put it quite plainly. Our community is surrounded by industrial facilities sucking the life out of us each and every day with excessive cancer-causing pollution. Our lives are worth more than another plant in the community. Sharon Levine, founder of Rise St. James, echoed that urgency, saying, "We're dying from inhaling the industry's pollution. I feel like it's a death sentence, like we are getting cremated, but not getting burnt." Damn.
Double homicide.
And Myrtle Felton, she didn't hold back either. "We are being poisoned, and it is genocide. We die slowly. I don't understand how companies could place the value of human life so low to the point where they're willing to exploit all of the local resources within a community and also pour in a number of toxic, harmful chemicals into the community for the sake of $1. Imagine if it was your family in this area, your cousin, your sister, your brother, your grandmother, constantly placed in an environment where they feel trapped. Because before you even say it, guys, these people can't just up and leave. These people can't just pack their up and say, all right, I'm gonna go somewhere else that's healthier and cleaner and safer. We're dealing with people who are lower income and they don't have the financial resources to move, let alone fight these companies in the courtroom. So this is why all of this should matter to you, whether or not you live in the state of Louisiana. Now, there have been some legal developments with the courts. Unfortunately, it hasn't been going well for the residents. A lower court dismissed the case outright. But in April of 2025, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals actually flipped the script. They ruled the case could proceed, acknowledging the plaintiffs weren't just relitigating history. They were challenging ongoing discrimination. That itself, that is big. The courts are finally seemingly recognizing that environmental racism isn't just a talking point. It's an actual bona fide legal claim. Throughout the process of these ongoing trials and appeals, there have been a lot of community voices that have stepped out to really place themselves on the front lines and support not only their communities, but the absolute requirement to place human life above billion-dollar companies. Now, while all of this has been happening within the courts, there have been a number of community voices that have stepped up to the front lines. Gail LaBeouf of Inclusive Louisiana put it quite perfectly. We have been sounding the alarm for far too long that a moratorium is needed to halt the expansion of any more polluting industries in our neighborhoods. Pastor Harry Joseph of Mount Triumph Baptist Church added, "We ask for a moratorium because enough is enough. If they keep putting more in our area, more children are going to get sick. And we've already lost too many people." To you out there listening, again, how do you think you would feel knowing that just because of where you live, just because of that alone, you are already at an immensely higher rate for cancer, asthma, chronic illness, and it's not because of your upbringing. It's because of corporations exploiting your neighborhood, exploiting where you're from, exploiting the fact that these are minority groups and they can't fight you in court. It's a sad existence for the folks down there in Louisiana, in Cancer Alley. And I hope that this story really does highlight the importance of understanding what environmental law really means and what it does mean to say that, hey, corporations are not able to just get away with killing people, quite literally. So, of course, this is precedent pending. What are the implications here? What real precedent could this set? This case could honestly be a game changer. If successful, it would set a precedent that local governments can be held accountable for systemic environmental discrimination. Think about that. No more shrugging off zoning decisions as neutral or coincidental. It would mean future industrial projects would have to pass a civil rights sniff test, if you will, quite literally and legally, more importantly. Environmental justice litigation would finally have teeth, and communities of color might finally gain legal leverage to fight back against decades of being treated like disposable real estate and disposable human beings. Now, that is the positive, okay? That's the good side of things. It can go the other way. And with that would come a sustained systemic oppression that has been essentially co-signed by the federal government. If the court systems do not go in the affirmative for the citizens in Louisiana. So yes, there's a big decision here that can really sway the pendulum in almost two different extremes. We've got to stay on top of this, everyone. You've got to make sure that you understand how these corporations can skirt the law, but more importantly, how we can hold them accountable, okay? I think that is the biggest thing here. Again, whether or not you live in Louisiana. So the road ahead here for the battle taking place for Cancer Alley, it's going to be a litmus test for whether our legal system is ready to confront racism in all of its forms, including the airborne, industrial, environmental kind. And with the case moving forward, we're about to find out just how serious the courts are about to get when it comes to protecting Black lives when they're not trending hashtags, but breathing toxic air. You gotta be kidding me. Bitch. Bitch. Like, I don't understand. I'm sorry. We're breaking. We're breaking right here. Real time. The ice cream truck. The ice cream truck. This has happened to me before on a prior episode. And that thing was just circling and circling and circling. And there was no one outside trying to get ice cream. I frankly want to know who still thinks it's a great idea to drive a strange van around and ask for ice cream, like ask if people want ice cream. Sorry, in 2025, stranger danger. Okay. I don't know what you're about. I also don't know what kind of ice cream you've got. Okay. It's a chop. And I am so sick of that damn ice cream truck. But you know what? I digress. I digress. The bitch is left now. So I'm gonna pick back up and we're gonna keep this show rolling, okay? So we're gonna start from the top. The battle for Cancer Alley is a litmus test for whether our legal system is ready to confront racism in all of its forms, including airborne, industrial, and the environmental kind. And with the case moving forward, we're about to find out just how serious the courts are about protecting Black lives when they're not trending hashtags, but breathing toxic air daily. This case isn't just about the chemical plants or the cancer rates. It's about the value we place on the people forced to live in society's toxic margins. Again, lower income, they don't have the means to up and leave. They're quite literally stuck in a toxic environment. Our country can do so much better than that. Our country, our leaders, we can do more to protect the people that are not, just the top 1%. When zoning decisions become death sentences and whole communities are treated like collateral damage for corporate profit, we have to ask, whose lives matter when nobody's watching? If this lawsuit wins, it won't just clean the air. It'll blow the lid off of decades of environmental neglect wrapped in legal red tape. And that, folks, that's the kind of precedent that doesn't just shift policy, it saves lives. Coming up next, we Cupid shuffle right on into the segment that often lacks rhyme or reason. Cite me, don't fight me. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back, y'all. It's time for the segment where I serve you legal facts so wild, they sound made up. And guess what? If you've been here for a while, you know this is not fake. All this you can Google and find yourself. The citations will tell you exactly what I'm talking about. Welcome to Cite Me, Don't Fight Me, okay? The part of the show where the law gets exposed like it's on reality TV. And this week, we're talking about laws that took too long, never should have existed, or somehow still do. Buckle up, because we're hitting everything from delayed justice for lynching to cousin weddings with state approval to police snatching your DNA before you even see a courtroom. Let's begin, shall we? First up, this one, I can't even say anything outside of yuck. Did you know you can marry your first cousin in half of the country? Currently, half of the country. Meanwhile, same-sex couples were, and to some degree, are still fighting tooth and nail for marriage equality. Guess who never had to protest for the right to get hitched? First cousins. As of today, 19 states and DC still allow first cousin marriages. Yes, in some cases, you just need to be over 50 or prove you're infertile. What the because that somehow makes it better. Oh, she's 55, he's 55, he's infertile, she's infertile, everybody's sterile. Oh yeah, your cousins? Oh cool, y'all can knock it out. Are you serious? That is disgusting. So, depending on where you live, love wins, unless you're queer. But if you're related, the state says mazel tov. Go off and go hunch somewhere in the corner. Nasty. Some of the states with marriage laws currently legally allowing this practice include, and listen, if you catch a stray here, don't blame me, blame your local legislators. Alabama, California, Colorado, Connecticut, DC, Florida. And Florida, surprise, surprise, has the claim of if you're infertile, it applies. And Georgia, also with exceptions. Wow. I'm gonna say it like this, and I truly don't care who I piss off with this. To be very clear, if you are a cousin, gross, yuck, you need to go talk to the lady. And by the lady, I mean a therapist. Because you got some you really need to work through. All these people in the world, and you trying to your cousin? That's nasty. And that's sad. Okay. Listen, I just have to tell you how I feel. It is what it is. Moving to our second story, our second law here that is equally disturbing is that, guess what? Lynching wasn't a federal crime until 2022. Yeah, that is correct, folks. Do your Googling. The United States didn't pass a federal anti-lynching law until March 2022. Now, over 200 attempts were made since 1900. And it wasn't until the Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Act, named after a 14-year-old Emmett Till. I know many of you probably that you should know this story. It was tragic. 14-year-old Emmett Till, who was brutally murdered in 1955 and dragged behind the back of a car. It wasn't until this law came into place that Congress finally got it together in 2022. You're telling me we managed to federally regulate TikTok before we said, hey, maybe lynching people should be a hate crime? What do you guys think? Make it make sense here. Lynching is absolutely a deplorable part of the American fabric that should have been outlawed, banned, made illegal long ago. Like the golden era to do that would have been during the civil rights movement in the 60s, early 70s. But no, we waited until 2022. What does that tell you about the United States? It should tell you a lot about what we prioritize and what communities really matter and how we really feel about hate crimes. That's just a little something extra to mull over, but yeah. And for our last story in this segment, the police can collect and store your DNA. No warrant required. Did you know that? Think you've got Fourth Amendment protections when it comes to your body? Oh, silly rabbit. Not exactly. Thanks to the Supreme Court's 2013 decision in Maryland versus King, police can take a DNA swab from you at the time of arrest, even if you're never convicted. And most importantly, they can store it in a database indefinitely. So while your phone might be protected from search without a warrant, your actual genetic code, the fabric of who you are, that's apparently up for grabs. So, class, what did we learn here today? Let's review, shall we? Lynching just became a federal crime. Marrying your cousin might still be legal depending on your zip code. And your DNA could already be in a police database, even if you've never seen the inside of a courtroom. This is America, where the laws are often weirder and darker than fiction. That's it for this round of Cite Me, Don't Fight Me. We're gonna take a quick break, and when we come back, guess what? It's segment 4, Objection, Your Honor. And I got some things I really want to get off my chest today, damn it. So, go get a drink, go shake your ass for a second. Go figure out if your state has cousin laws. And then we'll jump back in. Folks, hey, Jay here. Our legal system clearly has some work to do. But you didn't need me to tell you that. Now, y'all know what time it is. Welcome to Objection, Your Honor, the part of the show where I drop the legal pleasantries and speak my whole truth. It's where the courtroom of legal eagles, that would be you all, and the culture are exposed to something that seriously needs to be heard. Because sometimes the law says one thing, but lived experience says something else entirely. And this week, we're honing our lens to an era that doesn't just bend the rules, it weaponizes them. Today's objection, I'm talking about the Trump administration. Yes, I dare talk about and critique an administration that is outwardly poisonous and offensive and actually hates people like me, who look like me, who come from where I come from, and surprisingly give us pennies and expect everything from us at the same damn time. Let's talk about it. So, I'm not just going to talk about policies, okay? We got plenty of news sources that can give you all of that. But I want to focus in on the poisonous rhetoric, the targeted cruelty, and the way it turned the machinery of government into an engine of oppression for anyone who didn't and doesn't fit the mold. From immigrants to queer folks to communities of color, the message has been resoundingly loud. If you don't fall in line, you get erased. And I've got some things to say about that. So let's get to work. Your Honor, proverbial Your Honor, you get it, Anyway, Your Honor, I rise today with an objection. Not just to one man, okay? But to the entire political and cultural machinery that has allowed this brand of fear, division, and cruelty to be normalized like background noise. I'm objecting to an era that has wrapped white supremacy in red hats and called it patriotism. And I damn sure challenge someone to ask me how much of a patriot I am. Bitch, I have served and continue to serve in the United States Air Force. Out of here. I'm objecting to a government that openly targets immigrants, mocks the disabled, and coddles racists while claiming to be the voice of forgotten Americans. Forgotten by who? Because the rest of us were never even counted, and the ones purportedly forgotten, they were forgotten for valid reason. The Trump administration hasn't been just divisive. That's putting it mildly. It has been deliberate, tactical, and insidious. Deliberate in how it used power to punish the marginalized. Muslim bans, trans military bans, family separations at the border, the use of the military to then commandeer and basically turn a ICE raid into cattle call. What? Tactical. In the barrage of executive orders that read like hit lists for civil rights. Insidious in how the administration has seeped into what was ordinary political discourse, but is now tense, life-threatening, and incredibly divisive. I know you all remember that era. Not too long ago, people just had passionate discourse, no matter what political party they were a part of. Now, your political affiliation could cost you your life. And that's all due to this man and his rhetoric and his hatred. And don't let anyone gaslight you into thinking all of this was about economic anxieties. This has been textbook authoritarianism with a side of social media manipulation, denials of Project 2025 implementation, and Proud Boy shout-outs. Well, even pardons to those alleged Proud Boys. And let's not forget the war on the notion of the word truth. The war on journalists, the war on educators, the war on Black voices, queer voices, immigrant voices, any voice that didn't fall in line. Because when you control the narrative, you can silence the reality with surgical precision. When you redefine protest as unpatriotic, you turn dissent into a crime. That is not policy. It is propaganda. What really infuriates me the most isn't just what was done and continues to be done, but how many people have stayed silent while it continues to happen. The same folks who claim to love the Constitution and tout that everyone is equal sure didn't seem too pressed when the First Amendment was being trampled by riot gear and federal agents in unmarked vans, or when a woman's right to choose and have bodily autonomy became a topic determined by white men in suits. Where y'all at? The same voices yelling cancel culture, BLM, or gay rights or human rights went noticeably mute when entire communities were being erased from the policy conversations altogether. You're a hypocrite. Y'all are hypocrites. So yes, everyone, I object to this administration quite loudly, to the complicity, even in silence, to the legacy of cruelty masquerading as leadership while returning back to America's values. And if you're still on the fence about whether any of this is that serious, baby, sis, girl, bitch, whatever, let me be very clear. If your rights weren't the ones being targeted, you don't get to tell the rest of us to calm down. Matter of fact, you should ask yourself, why are your rights more important and not just as important as every human being in this country? It is high time to cut the crap and be part of the solution, not the problem. At some point, silence becomes a clear endorsement. It becomes complicity. And we've seen what happens when hateful ideologies go unchecked. They get rebranded as normal and come back stronger and more hateful. In the words of Iyanla Vanzant, not on my watch. That's the objection. And I'm standing by it. You can either be with me or not. If you're not, that's your problem, not mine. because I'm going to continue to be on the right side of things, part of the solution, not the problem. If you're listening to this and you still don't understand, I highly urge you to talk to people who don't look like you. Talk to people in communities, that are facing real life crisis as we speak, right here in the United States. Domestic terrorism is real. I feel like people need to open their eyes and just see how divisive, how cutthroat, how deadly policy and politics have become. You need to do the right thing, be on the right side of things. If not for me, for your kids, for your own well being, for your parents. Get your shit in gear. We don't know how much time we really have. Whew. If you've made it this far, congratulations. Your reward is knowing that you're legally smarter and emotionally more tense. We covered a lot today: faux victimhood, systemic oppression, cousin weddings that are somehow still legal, and the terrifying truth that your DNA might already be chilling in a police database, and not because you volunteered it. But underneath all of the wild facts and hard-hitting topics is one central truth. Power unchecked is power abused. Whether it's government zoning people into sickness, leaders stoking fear for votes, or laws pretending to protect while actually doing harm, we can't afford to stay quiet, confused, or complicit, y'all. As I prepare for the amount of hate that I have and will continue to receive from online trolls hiding behind keyboards and those who are blissfully ignorant or downright people, I am reminded that this work, this podcast, this platform is already doing the work and causing a commotion. I need you to be the positive counter to the negativity we are supposed to tolerate in this day and age. With that being said, if you're feeling overwhelmed, don't worry. Hell, I am too. I've got one tab open for the Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Act, one for can your cousin be your maid of honor and your wife, and one for how to get your DNA out of a government database. Bitch, over here is just another day in the life of a fired up attorney in the making. If you've got a weird law, legal rant, or burning question that keeps you up at night, or makes you yell, "Excuse me?" in public, hey, email us over at theoverruledpodcast@gmail.com. And as always, follow and support on all platforms. Overruled Podcast on Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky, and on YouTube at The Overruled Podcast. And hey, if this episode informed you, entertained you, or made you pause and yell, "What the hell?" into the void, leave us a 5-star review. It's free, it's cute, and it helps us outsmart the algorithm like we're the legal version of Inspector Gadget. Do. Okay, you're welcome. Until next time, stay curious, stay confrontational, and stay ready to object when the nonsense shows up. I'm your host, Jay, and this has been Overruled, where the truth is admissible, even when it is uncomfortable. Bye. Yeah. Hi-ya. Toot that thing up, mommy, make it roll. Once you pop, lock, drop it for me, baby, we can roll. Oh, pop, lock, and drop it. Pop, pop, it, pop, pop. Ow! I don't know why that is the song that came up, y'all, at the end. The way my mind works at times, it's a little bit chaotic, but hey, here we are. Um, Thank you for watching or listening, however you consume your podcast. Um, as you know, typically at the end of the episode, I have a little afties, and I usually have some sort of drink aside from the water that I'm sipping on, just to kind of, Today's beverage is a lovely health aid kombucha. I enjoy this brand quite a bit, but this flavor I never had before. It's the passion fruit and tangerine. And let me tell you, she goes up. My favorite flavor that Health Aid does is the Honey Crisp or Pink Lady Apple. It's an apple one. It's so good. I love, love, love that. And I love apple things. Um, but yeah, this little kombucha, she's getting it. And I always enjoy drinking these because of the bottle. Like it's a glass bottle. It feels like it feels substantial. It feels like, oh, okay, this got some weight to it. I can I could hit somebody with this if I needed to in a pinch, you know. Not that I'm doing that, but I'm just saying. And let's see what else is going on. Y'all, it has been a lot kind of going on behind the scenes. I don't even know what to say right now. Um in this environment, but just know that there's some things really burgeoning that I'm really excited about. I had a great therapy session. That is always wonderful when I get to link up with my therapist. She's a Black woman. And so she can already kind of connect with the Black experience, which makes things so much easier to talk about, especially in a field where Black therapists are not, not overwhelming. They're not in high, volume. So it's a treat to really have a Black therapist. Um, yeah, that's really it. That's all that I've got for y'all. I hope that you all are doing well out there. I thank you so much for watching, listening, and thank you all for those of you who have, given me the love and given me the 5 stars, followed me on different platforms. I mean, I'm starting from zero. So every single one of you matter and mean something to me. If there's anything more you would like to hear about, anything more you feel like we could dig into, even if it's something from a prior episode that it's like, oh, it would be really cool to have like a deep, deep, deep dive on something. I'm up for it. Just let me know. DM, email, whatever. You know how to get a hold of me. Y'all see me on all the platforms. Well, most of the platforms. And that's all I got. Okay. Thank y'all. I love you. Not in a weird way. Love me back. Not in a weird way. And I'll see y'all next time. This has been Jay's Afties. Thanks. Bye, y'all.